face a blatant act of Serbian expansionism and aggression.
Rivals in its intensity. The atrocities that took place in Central Europe in the 30s.
This is no more a civil war than Germany and Austria and Czechoslovakia had civil wars in the 1930s. This, as then in my view, is fascist thuggery on the march.
And what's going on is an atrocity.
In large concentration camps.
I think we should also be using air power. I think we should have been using it a year ago, a year and a half ago.
I was suggesting we bomb Belgrade. I was suggesting that we send American pilots in and blow up all the bridges on the Drina. I was suggesting we take out his oil supplies. I was suggesting very specific...
Joseph Biden became the 46th President of the United States of America after more than controversial elections. And immediately he continued his unfriendly policy against Serbia. On the National Day of Serbia, Biden wrote the letter that he expects an early mutual recognition of Serbia and pseudo-state Kosovo. This happens often after war and the crisis in a country provoked by the intervention of the United States. American officials develop a profitable business there as soon as the situation returns to normal. General Wesley Clark became Kosovo's coal king, and Madeleine Albright runs the local telecommunication systems. And at the same time, Joseph Biden chose for his dubious business much more significant country than southern Serbian province Kosovo.
When demonstrations began at the end of 2013 on the central Kiev Square Maidan, which soon escalated into bloody clashes between protesters and the police, Joseph Biden was actively involved in creation of the crisis. Using the authority of the US Vice President, Joseph Biden is forcing Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych to cancel a series of controversial steps that will cause him the fall of his power. Viktor Yanukovych dismissed successful Prime Minister Mykola Azarov, during whose mandate the country made a significant economic breakthrough and achieved an increase in the standard of living of the population. The foreign policy of the Azarov government was balanced between the West and Russia.
На самом деле, вот он в какой-то момент решил разменять правительство и поддался уговорам того же Байдена, уговорам тех же, так сказать, и поляков, и там немцев, которые вот его убеждали, что достаточно пойти навстречу вот этой толпе, да, и вот создать правительство такого доверия.
It seemed to Biden that the displacement of Mykola Azarov was insufficient, and on February 9th he demanded from President Yanukovych to remove the special police unit Berkut from the streets of Kiev. 3 days later, the Yanukovych regime fell. Power was taken by a group of pushists, and the first high-ranking foreign politician who arrived on an official visit was Joseph Biden.
In 2014 and 2015, Joseph Biden visited Ukraine 5 times. Did those more than frequent trips have motives other than political ones?
It'd be very interesting to see the transcripts. We've got numerous phone calls from the vice president to Poroshenko. Poroshenko showing up in Shokin's office and saying, Biden's putting pressure on me. You can't go forward with Burisma. Can you slow it down? And all of a sudden, Shokin gets this communique from Latvia that shows a $16 million laundering transaction, classic laundering transaction. It goes from Ukraine to Latvia. It's disguised as a loan to another company, Wire Logic, I believe. It then goes to Cyprus, gets disguised as another loan. This is called Digitech. And then it's dispersed as payment of board fees. Now, you don't make two loans to pay board fees unless you're laundering the money. $3 million gets to Hunter Biden that way. That is a straight-out violation of a money laundering statute.
The document referred here is an official letter dated February 2016 from the Prosecutor's Office of the Republic of Latvia, Money Laundering Investigations Division. The letter states, quote, according to publicly available information, Burisma Holding Limited and its director Hunter Biden are involved in a corruption affair, end quote. Latvia traced $14.7 million between 2012 and 2015. The funds were transferred back to Burisma to the accounts of Devon Archer and Hunter Biden.
The founder of Burisma Holding is Mykola Zlochevsky, Ministry of Ecology in the government of Mykola Azarov from 2010 to 2012. During this time, Zlochevsky managed to provide his company with favorable terms for the exploitation of the gas fields in Ukraine. About 1/3 of Ukraine gas sourced today belong to Burisma. 11 criminal cases were initiated against him in 5 countries of the world, and he is also suspected of involvement in an international organized criminal group that legalized billions of dollars. At the same time that several criminal proceedings were being conducted against Zlochevsky, including the case of money laundering and illegal financial transactions in the UK USAID. This state agency for international development became his strategic partner. The USAID and Burisma are jointly financing the gasification project in Ukraine and even announced a joint competition for journalists. Negative reputation of Zlochevsky in business circles did not prevent the son of the US President Joseph Biden, Hunter, who became one of the directors of Burisma with a monthly salary $50,000. As we already know, the Latvian prosecutor's office suspects Hunter Biden and his close friend Devon Archer that they embezzled another $14.7 million from Burisma through Razmon Seneca Bohai. A priori, parent cannot be responsible for the behavior of his child. However, Joseph Biden not only knew about the machination of his son and his business partner Devon Archer, but also actively participated in their attempts to close or interfere with the investigation. Rudolph Giuliani and Viktor Shokin, the former Prosecutor General of Ukraine, have no doubts about this.
Vice President of the United States bribing the president of a country to force the president of the country to do what he doesn't want to do. And now Joe will tell us, oh, it wasn't corrupt because I didn't know about my son. I have 10 ways to prove to you he knew about his son.
The problem began when we started to dig into Burisma.
Did Ambassador Pyatt confront you directly about Burisma?
Shokin says Ambassador Pyatt's pressure on him was indirect, but clear. They went from meeting multiple times a week to not at all. Pyatt even delivered a speech criticizing Shokin's handling of Burisma. For me, says Shokin, it was interesting why an ambassador of a foreign nation was trying to interfere in the investigation of a sovereign country. Shokin says pressure to stop investigating Hunter Biden's Burisma activities then increased, and President Poroshenko personally asked Shokin to wind down the Burisma investigation to appease then Vice President and Obama's Ukraine point man, Joe Biden. As the months passed, more cases and investigations into Burisma sprung up, and President Poroshenko came to Shokin's office and told Shokin the Burisma case was why Joe Biden wouldn't release $1 billion in U.S. loan guarantees, money Ukraine needed desperately. Yes, said Shokin, that's what he told me. He came to me and said, you are a patriot of Ukraine. We need this $1 billion. We're at war, and if you are a patriot, you will close this case. My conversation with Poroshenko on this, Shokin says, was in a phone call. It was after we started seizing Burisma assets in Ukraine when Poroshenko called me and said, listen, this all has to stop already. Joe Biden's temper is overflowing. This seizing of Burisma assets, said Poroshenko, was the last straw. Shokin says Poroshenko then paid him a visit in his office, asking for Shokin's resignation. Shokin responded and asked, "Why do I have to go? I haven't done anything wrong. I'm doing my job. This is standard procedure. We have reason to freeze Burisma assets." And Poroshenko said, "Biden is angry about you freezing Burisma assets. I'll figure something out." We asked Shokin if this demand for a resignation was specifically because Biden had asked for it, or if there were other possible reasons. Shokin insists it was all Biden. Because of Biden, says Shokin. Everyone knew what was going on. Poroshenko told me directly that I had to step down as Prosecutor General because of Joe Biden.
Joseph Biden and Secretary of State John Kerry demanded the resignation of Viktor Shokin in telephone conversations. Moreover, Biden confirmed this at a public conference several years later, calling Prosecutor Shokin a son of a bitch.
But before Vice President Biden comes, I just wanted to try to urge you to see if there's a way to get by this problem of replacing the Prosecutor General, Shokin, because from our perception, he's blocked the cleanup of the Prosecutor General's office, and I know the Vice President is very concerned about it, and I think it'd be good to try to have some resolution of that before the Vice President comes, if it's possible, and have real clarity as to the steps that we're going to take forward. I think. Petro, can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's better.
I can hear you better too. I'm sorry.
No problem.
You were saying, I missed what you were saying.
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm very happy to hear you. Second, this is very valuable for me that you find out a time for me even in Minnesota. And I'm dreaming some days to be with you in Minnesota.
That's easy, man. I tell you what, I'd like to be with you instead of Minnesota right now, but go ahead.
The third, I have some positive and negative news. I will start with the positive news.
Well, good.
Joe, I have a second positive news for you. Yesterday, I met with the General Prosecutor Shokin.
Yes.
And despite of the fact that we didn't have any corruption charges, we don't have any information about he doing something wrong, I especially asked him, it was the day before yesterday, I especially asked him to resign as his position as a state person, and despite of the fact that he has a support in the parliament. And as a finish of my meeting with him, he promised me to give me the statement on resignation. And 1 hour ago, he bring me the written statement of his resignation.
Great.
And this is my second step for keeping my promises.
I agree. Hey, Mr. President, Joe Biden, how are you?
Very well indeed. As usual when I hear your voice. Thank you very much.
Well, you are doing very well. Congratulations on getting the new Prosecutor General. I know there's a lot more that has to be done, but I really think that's good, and I understand you're working with the rod in the coming days on a number of additional laws to secure the IMF. But congratulations on installing the new Prosecutor General. It's going to be critical for him to work quickly to repair the damage Shokin did. And I'm a man of my word. And that now that the new Prosecutor General is in place, we're ready to move forward in signing that new $1 billion loan guarantee. And I don't know how you want to go about that. I'm not going to be able to get to Kyiv anytime soon, meaning next month or so. And I don't know whether you could either sign it with our ambassador, or if you came here, we could sign it, or if you want, we're inviting Groisman here later. I'm going to be talking to him later this morning, not for that purpose. We're inviting him to Washington, and so I'll leave it up to you as to how you want that done and when you want it done.
First of all, thank you very much indeed for these words of support.
And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time.
Viktor Shokin retired early in April 2016. This did not stop him, and he began to speak openly about the Burisma case and accused Joseph Biden and his son Hunter of involvement in corruption schemes and money laundering. In 2019, while on vacation in Greece, he suffered a clinical death. His heart was saved twice. After providing emergency assistance in Greece, where his wife's life was saved, Shokin continued his rehabilitation in Vienna. There, in his body was found a concentration of mercury, 5 times higher than the permissions norm. Austrian doctors ruled out the possibility that such a volume of mercury could enter the body of the former Prosecutor General of Ukraine by accident. Unlike the case of the actually not poisoned Viktor Yushchenko, former president of Ukraine, and the recent controversial incident with Alexei Navalny, the tragedy of Ukraine's chief prosecutor was not reported in the global media. Unlike Navalny and Yushchenko, who had no consequences, Viktor Shokin survived an attempt mercury poisoning, but with long-term health problems.
Petro Poroshenko proposed the new Prosecutor General of Ukraine, Yuri Lutsenko, by agreement with Joseph Biden. Later, Lutsenko told many interesting things about the constant pressure from the American ambassador, Maria Jovanovic.
President Poroshenko?
Yes.
One moment for Vice President Biden. Introducing President Poroshenko.
Hey, Mr. President Joe Biden, how are you?
Very well indeed. All the time when I hear your voice, it's a great pleasure for me.
Well, I'm on Air Force 2, and I think we're going to stay connected. We just took off, and I'm hoping this connection will stay open. Assuming that there is a new government and a new Prosecutor General, I am prepared to do a public signing of the commitment for the $1 billion. Again, I'm not suggesting that that's what you want or don't want. I'm just suggesting that that's what we're prepared to do. And again, it wouldn't be finalized until, the IMF pieces are written.
Extremely strong motivation. One of the possible candidates was leader of my faction, Lutsenko, who is the public figure. If you think that the political motivated figure would be not very good from your point of view, I recall this proposal. I do not propose, because nobody knows that I want to propose Lutsenko. In this situation, I take all the political motivated figures out from this process.
All right, well, look, let me when you and I finish speaking, let me huddle with my team, talk over what you and I just talked about. I agree with you, there is a sense of urgency here.
So everything was good, but then Jovanovic visited me.
Ambassador Jovanovic.
Ambassador Jovanovic and Mr. Kent, they visited me for a small negotiation or talkings.
Did they visit you in your office? Just curious.
Yes. Firstly, I visited her in her office, and then it was the second meeting, but the first in my office. They visited me. And we spoke normally, and she asked me to change some old deputies.
Ambassador Jovanovic asked you.
Not asked, but maybe she advised me to change your deputies because they are from old team and they are not very effective. She asked me to close it, but I said it is impossible. We have investigation process and Mr. Investigator. So I took a piece of paper on my table and I write these three, not cases, but synonyms. Kasko, Lutsenko, Shabunin. Okay, Miss Ambassador, Madam Ambassador. Let's continue your untouchable list. She asked me, why are you so serious? And then I destroyed this list. So while I am general prosecutor, no president, no ambassador could give me or could announce me such lists. She ran immediately from the office, and my boy near office doors asked me, "What you told her?" His red face and very angry. I didn't agree to receive any orders to open or to close criminal cases.
During the investigation, Prosecutor Lutsenko suspected that the Burisma group, through an American foundation, had created a pyramid scheme where were locked up about $7 billion from Ukraine oligarchs, which were borrowed and then returned to the country through the foreign fund. He wished to speak to the American justice system about this, but problems continued when Ambassador Jovanovic on a congressional committee stated the following.
Allegation that I disseminated a do not prosecute list was a fabrication. Mr. Lutsenko, the former Ukrainian Prosecutor General who made that allegation, has acknowledged that the list never existed.
I have bad news for Madame Jovanovic. This is my letter, my deputy letter, to request for cooperation in investigation against the criminal organization of Yanukovych and regarding possible investments in the US-based mutual and other funds for the purpose of money laundering. Dear Legal Attaché, Office of the Legal Attaché, US Embassy.
When is this dated?
The October of 2017. The October of 2017.
While it has been explicitly proven that the Ambassador Jovanovic has exceeded her diplomatic authority and compromised the principles of fairness for Adam Schiff, chairman of the US Congressional Intelligence Committee, she is right.
Ambassador Jovanovic was an anti-corruption champion.
Посольство США в Украине фактически перетянуло на себя функцию коммуникации Генеральной прокуратуры Украины с Министерством юстиции США. Согласование всех вопросов, которые мы хотели задать, шли через Марию Jovanovic, которая, очевидно, их рецензировала. Кроме этого, против нас, я имею в виду против тех, кто пытался проводить расследование в отношении Николая Злочевского или в отношении его компаний, детективами Национального антикоррупционного бюро Украины начиналось оказываться давление в виде попыток привлечь к уголовной ответственности за выдуманные преступления. Такие попытки НАБУ детективов заканчивались ничем, но здорово отвлекали и занимали много служебного времени. Однако информация о расследовании в отношении прокуроров детективами НАБУ сливалась в СМИ с целью дискредитации. И этим занимались представители группы Джорджа Сороса, который имеет значительное влияние на СМИ в Украине. Все это, деятельность НАБУ и кампания с дискредитацией прокуроров, которые занимались расследованием в отношении Николая Злочевского, курировалась послом США в Украине Марией Jovanovic и представителем ФБР Карен Гринвей. Имели место случаи незаконной передачи НАБУ в посольство США в Украине личных данных прокуроров, которые проводили расследование. Посольством оказывалось активное препятствование расследованию.
Здравствуйте. Месяц назад я вышел на пресс-конференцию и обнародовал факты, согласно которым руководство НАБУ сливало посольству США секретную и личную информацию о народных депутатах, о руководителях других правоохранительных органов, а также сливало данные уголовных производств о международной коррупции, в которых фигурируют высшие чины Украины и США. Из обнародованной служебной переписки набушников И посольство следовало. Первое. НАБУ полностью подконтрольно отдельным политически озабоченным представителям дипломатической миссии США.
Andrei Derkach, an independent deputy of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, accused Joseph Biden of fact that, in addition to defending his son Hunter's muddy work in the Burisma holding, he also took a part in organizing a deception in which $1.5 billion were stolen from Ukrainian citizens.
При этом есть интересный факт. За 3,5 года, с 15 по 18, средняя цена в Европе за 1000 кубометров того же газа, который покупают украинцы, составляет $211 США, а нефтегаз покупает в среднем по $245 США, разница почти $35. В июле 18 апреля 19 года средняя цена в Европе была почти $238,5, а Украина импортировала его по $288,5 США, разница $50 на каждые 1000 кубометров. Разницу видно на слайде. Таким образом, Украина за 5 лет, по самым скромным подсчетам экспертов, переплатила почти $1,5 миллиарда за так называемый европейский газ. Большая часть этой суммы осела в карманах организаторов схемы и, предположительно, чиновников нефтегаза. Если сказать проще, $1,5 миллиарда денег простых наших сограждан снефтегазили. Одним из главных архитекторов реформы нефтегаза был представитель наблюдательного совета Амос Хохштайн. На сайте нефтегаза отмечается, что он консультировал вице-президента США без указания имени. Но нам не составило труда узнать, что речь идет о Джо Байдене. Кто же такой Амос Хохштайн и при чем он в газовой схеме нефтегаза? 1 августа 2014 года Хохштайн стал действующим специальным посланником и координатором по международным энергетическим вопросам. Как главный энергетический дипломат США, Хохштайн работал в тесном сотрудничестве с вице-президентом Джо Байденом и сопровождал его в международных поездках для продвижения энергетических ресурсов в качестве основного инструмента внешней политики Соединенных Штатов. Среди ключевых целей Хохштейна в этой должности давление на украинскую власть и президента Петра Порошенко с требованием реформировать деятельность государственной газовой компании «Нефтегаз», которая контролировала около 2/3 энергетических ресурсов Украины. Хохштайн не скрывал, что в своей деятельности подчиняется Джо Байдену и практически находится под его прямым контролем. Я был почти на каждой отдельной встрече, которую вице-президент Байден проводил с президентом Порошенко. Я был в каждой поездке, я присутствовал при большинстве телефонных разговоров, признался в интервью New York Times Амос Хохштайн в этом году. Могли ли создатели реформы нефтегаза, среди которых полностью подотчетный Байдену Хохштайн, не знать про аферу с байпасом и реверсом российского газа? Нет, не могли. А судя по тому, что часть украденных денег выводилась на американские компании, они еще и покрывали эту схему. Что Украина получила в итоге? Украине была навязана ошибочная модель энергонезависимости, вернее, навязана очень четкая модель энергозависимости. Вместо увеличения собственной добычи происходила закупка газа в Европе у посредников, за счет чего завышалась его цена. Комиссионные посредникам составляют в среднем от 30 до 50 евро на каждые 1000 кубов. По одним источникам, и есть другие источники, по которым эксперты говорят $35-50, исходя из расчетов разницы цен в среднем в Европе и в Украине. Для того, чтобы сделать этот бизнес рентабельным, внутренняя цена на газ в Украине для потребителей, как коммерческих, так и наших сограждан, была поднята примерно в 10 раз за последние годы. Я хочу пояснить свою позицию. Я не против того, чтобы Украина не пользовалась российским газом, но при условии, что при этом не грабят украинский народ. Секрет Полишинеля заключается в том, что речь идет о том же российском газе, который проходит по территории Украины, выходит на 1 километр из страны, чаще всего в Словакию, и возвращается обратно уже как европейский. А не российский он, по мнению чиновников нефтегаза, только потому, что покупаем мы этот российский газ у нероссийских компаний-прокладок. И это общеизвестный факт.
В марте 2019 года я предъявил официальное обвинение Николаю Злочевскому в завладении деньгами Национального банка Украины в сумме эквивалентной 100 миллионов долларов США, а также в легализации отмывания доходов, полученных преступным путем, которые были совершены в составе преступной организации. В ходе расследования нам удалось также собрать доказательства о сговоре Николая Злочевского с группой лиц, граждан Латвии, которые специализировались на предоставлении услуг по легализации незаконных доходов и уклонению от уплаты налогов для некоторых украинских или российских бизнесменов. Одновременно мной было выдвинуто обвинение другим лицам, в том числе из окружения президента Украины Петра Порошенко. После этого произошел ряд событий, связанных с попытками противодействовать расследованию со стороны Николая Злочевского, американских лоббистов, представителей посольства США в Украине, Джо Байдена, президента Украины Петра Порошенко и других причастных лиц. И в октябре 2019 года им удалось уволить меня и других прокуроров с Генеральной прокуратуры Украины и передать дело по Николаю Злочевскому и его компаниям в Национальное антикоррупционное бюро Украины, которое контролируется посольством США. В октябре 2019 года руководитель Национального антикоррупционного бюро Украины Артем Сытник и Гизо Углава, который согласует свои действия с посольством США в Украине, заблокировали расследование этого дела. В итоге совместных усилий посольства США в Украине и подконтрольных ему органов НАБУ и Высшего антикоррупционного суда Украины в этом месяце, в октябре 2020 года, было принято техническое судебное решение об окончании сроков расследования, которое открыло Николаю Злочевскому возможность закрыть дело в отношении себя, своих компаний, компании Розамон Сенека Боха, Хантера Байдена и других фигурантов. Перефразируя одного известного человека, можно сказать, бандит с большими деньгами и со связями с вице-президентом США может сделать намного больше, чем просто бандит с большими деньгами. В нашем случае бандит смог годами тормозить расследование на территории 5 стран и, несмотря на информированность президентов и общественности этих стран, иметь реальную возможность закрыть уголовное дело в отношении себя и подельников за истечением сроков следствия.
If Western politicians and ambassadors in Ukraine, a country with a population of 50 million, are making serious efforts to resign the prosecutor who fights against crime and corruption, then one should not be surprised why Mr. Robert Weber, ambassador of Germany in Montenegro, together with other Western ambassadors, so decisively defend Prosecutor Milivoje Katnić. In real life, Special State Prosecutor Katnić represents the main protector crime and corruption. It is even less surprising that Joseph Biden adores Milo Djukanovic because it has long been said a fisherman sees another fisherman from afar.
You know Vladimir Putin, you think he's a killer?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So what price must he pay?
The price he's going to pay, well, you'll see shortly.
Касается заявления моего американского коллеги. Мы действительно, как он сказал, мы с ним лично знакомы. И что бы я ему ответил? Я бы сказал ему: будьте здоровы. Я желаю ему здоровья.